Oh, damn.
Access Radio, the future of radio and podcast. No limit to what we do.
Access Radio, WIAX, the future of radio and podcast. No limit to what we do.
Mel, celebrity vocal coach right here, and I am a part of Give It Life.
And ratchet,
and real extra ratchet, raunchy.
That'll be everywhere, like.
What we got coming up? Other shops is upstairs, but we down here by our house, man. We need that up.
Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation. Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation.
I was trying. I was trying to get my water right when you guys saw me come on. So that being said, drink water, be refreshed. I'm not going to tell you what I'm using, but drink water. This is Yaz HURSTON. You're listening to Phoenix Soul. Welcome, clarity, and connection through conversation. And we're here with you live at Access Radio, the future of podcasts. There's no limit to what we do. If you are interested in giving us a call, you can do so throughout the show. Our number is 347-708-0216. Again, I'm Yaz HURSTON. Welcome, 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 welcome. So we have a great show, as always. We always try to bring people on that are countless heroes that are doing the work that probably that are, I guess, they're doing the work that no one really knows, but it's just really making that difference. And I have the opportunity to really get to know these people and to tell and help them tell their message. So with us today, wait, before I begin that, let's see where we are. Oh, big shout out to a couple of people and a couple of friends. I guess this is cancer season. I don't know. But my very, very good friend, Aaliyah Horsford, happy birthday, belated birthday to her. She was the owner of Cove. If you all remember the spot in Harlem on Lenox Ave, she's the owner of that. And she just did an excellent documentary. Hopefully we'll get her on to talk about that. And also big shout out to my person, my everything, Jackie Rowe Adams, who is the head of Harlem Mother Save. She just had her 75th Diamond Jubilee celebration. It was really fire. It was great. Um, and if you've gone on my page, you might have seen some of the pictures and the videos of it. But just shout out. I just want to say 75 years old is nothing to sneeze at. To be able to be alive that long is a time to celebrate. And I hope that I can be alive that long because trust me, I'm having a party just like hers. But that being said, let's move on. We have an incredible guest. This guest, I find this quite interesting because we have a lot of similar interests. Um, and the interests basically kind of like balance our lives. And so, whereas when we first met, he asked me to speak at an event for him. And I gladly did it, not knowing who he was. He just kind of hit me up on LinkedIn. But I just said, whatever brother needs, I'm here to help. So I just appreciate him for coming on the show and doing this. We have with us commercial property manager of KINCO Realty, as well as the founder of the New York Crusaders football organization. I bring to you Mr. TYWAN Anthony.
Thank you. Man, that was a great introduction. I might need to
Really? Did you like it?
Get motivated. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm blessed. Can't complain. But if you do complain, I heard nobody listens anyway, so I don't complain. But I'm doing well. I can't complain.
That's good.
Yeah, busy right now. So it's budget season for our shopping centers and our shopping malls. So I'm under budgets and getting that stuff together. And football wise, we have a combine going and I have a couple of things going on football wise. So it's the busy time. It definitely is.
Well, I hear that. But before we get into a little bit about what's happening today, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are? Tell us like your background and what makes you you.
Sure. I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but
that's fine.
I am Brooklyn born and raised, Bed-Stuy, do or die, always and forever.
Okay.
So again, I went to school here, went away to college, graduated from Pittsburgh State, played football there, played in the CFL a little bit, in the UFL as well. And that's actually in college when I got into real estate also too, which is great. And we'll talk about that story later. Fast forward, here I am. I have a beautiful 3-year-old. I have a beautiful wife. So living in Brooklyn still, ain't going nowhere. I thought I might get out of Brooklyn, New York one day, but I said, you know what? I'm here, so I ain't going nowhere. But yeah, so during the day, I am a commercial property manager. I work for a firm called KINCO. KINCO is a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust, and we are pretty much the largest REIT in the country. And we own, develop, and manage open air shopping centers. And what that means is when you go to Tanger outlets, when you go to places that we all like to go shopping, those places have to be managed by someone, and that somebody is me. So we have about 550 properties throughout the country, all shopping centers from Target, from Best Buy, to Walmart's, to Lowe's, to Costco's. My portfolio is the Northeast and also Chicago and Indianapolis as well. So I do travel. And in addition to that, I'm big in the community and I'm big on making an impact. So I do have a foundation called the New York Crusaders. We are a nonprofit. It is an adult amateur football team, and we do play a part of leagues. We service 18 and older. So guys on our team, they range from 18. And last year, it's interesting, we had a father and son. We had a father and son duo that actually played with us last year. So that was pretty that was pretty cool. And yes, I still do play. I play outside linebacker. So I do still put on the helmet and shoulder pads and run around as well. So that's things in a nutshell.
Interesting. So did you start playing football before college? Did you play when you were young and in high school or something like that?
Yeah, so my grandmother got me into football when I was young. Maybe my grandmother, maybe I had to be about 7 or 8, and they're still around, called the Brooklyn Skyhawks. If anybody's familiar with the Brooklyn Skyhawks, that's where I started out, the Brooklyn Skyhawks. And then from there, things, I went to a high school called John Jay High School. John Jay is still there, is in Park Slope. The football team is not there, John Jay Warhawks. And then interestingly enough, my father had moved down to Florida, to Orlando. He calls me and he said, listen, if you're interested, if you really want to do something special with football, you should come down here. And I was like, man, I'm Brooklyn. I'm not trying. So
Do or die.
eventually he talked me into it, and I actually moved down there to Florida, which was a good choice, and I was happy. But I'll tell anybody this, and as I'm older, because I didn't have anybody guiding me, the myth that football is dead in New York City is so untrue. Is not even funny, right? If you are a good athlete, if you're a good young man, a good person, if your grades are decent, you're an athlete, and you're talented, program's going to find you, no matter if you come from, Queens, Brooklyn, or whether you come from Texas. If you're talented, you're going to find you.
So when you were John Jay, did you play football then?
Yes, played football at John Jay.
You played the same position that you're in now?
Same position. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, not really. So I played. So I played tight end a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Sophomore year, I played tight end, and then when I went to Florida, it was strictly defense, strictly DN and outside linebacker from there.
So what do you think football did for you? Did it change your life, or do you think it changed the trajectory of where you were going, where you were in football in New York or football in Florida? You think that made a difference for you?
Well, no, I would say that it didn't make a difference. It was the difference. Football didn't change my life. Football is my life, was my life. That's it. There's really, and even now, I still take the same thought process to it. Especially when you go to college and you play at a higher level. So I went to West Virginia first, and I transferred and went to Pittsburgh State. And I think from there, and I'll tell people this, football on that level is so much different. A lot of my young men, they play at this level, right? They call it semi-pro, adult tackle, whatever you want to call it. We practice once a week. It's very different. But when you go away to a school and you're in a program, it really iron sharpens iron. I think, if you're going to pursue something, you need that. So for me personally, football is everything. The same reason why I still get up at 5 a.m. My wife was like, why you get up so early? Because it's programmed in me for college in 2 days. I was up 5 a.m., right? So certain habits that we have, and I'm super competitive. I could be playing my 3-year-old son, G.I. Joe toys. I want to win. I'm just competitive. So I think it's important to have that. And for me, football was everything. It definitely was.
That's great. So moving into commercial real estate, there's so many levels to this, and there's so many ways to get in real estate. There's, like you said, development, building, and managing. What made you go into the commercial aspect of it?
Good question. So I didn't start out wanting to get into commercial. I didn't know what commercial was for a long time, right? Didn't know what it was. And here's a funny story. So when I was in college, I was at football practice, and a friend of mine from South Carolina, he says, hey, my father came down here and he bought up some property. I was like, well, how the hell he do that? Did he do that?
Right.
He said he went down to the local courthouse. I was like, this guy crazy, but it intrigued me. So what I did the next day or next week, I can't remember. I went down to the courthouse myself. And yeah, at that time, I was a young kid from Brooklyn. I had my fitted hat, I had my braids going, right? And mind
you, you had braids? You had braids back then?
Yeah, I had to. Listen, my braids was tight. I had the Allen Iverson braids.
Of course you did. Of course you did.
Of course, I had to, right? So I go down to the courthouse, and this is, we're talking a while ago, right? So it's before iPhones and all the other stuff. So I go down and I ask the lady, hey, do you guys have properties for sale? And she looks at me, and mind you, this is in the Midwest. This is in Kansas and West Virginia, this is the Midwest. Wow. So she looks at me, what you talking about? So she gives me this, she takes out and gives me this big book, boom, and lays it on the table. So I'm looking through it, and I'm like, well, what is this? She's like, these are the properties that you asked for. So what are you talking about? She said, these are the tax liens. She said, you asked for property. She said, these are everybody. This is everybody who hasn't paid their taxes within the last 2 to 3 years. I said, wow, okay. What does this mean? She said, here.
Wow.
3 months, come back to this court date. I said, all right. So what I did, I took that book, and I had the handheld camera, because again, iPhone wasn't out yet. I'm dating myself. iPhones wasn't out yet. So I looked at each property on that list, and I went by and I recorded each property, right? I recorded each and every property in the jurisdiction. So what I did 3 months later, I come to the courthouse date that the lady was talking about because I didn't know what I was doing, but she said come with cash. So I think I had about like $3,500 in my pocket. That was it, $3,500.
Wow.
So I go there. Again, still got my braids, fitted hat. I had on my Jabot jeans. If anybody remember Jabot, I had on my.
You're really dating yourself, TYWAN.
No, I like Jabot. I had on my Jabot jeans, right?
That's the 90s.
So I go there. So I go. And in this courthouse, I'm the only person there. I'm the only person that looks like me. I'm in my early 20s, early 20s. And there are, businessmen there and different kinds of people. So the auction starts. So what I was doing was going to auction. I didn't know. So I'm nervous. I let a couple properties go by. And next thing I know, a property came up that I really liked. So I raised my hand. He said, okay, somebody else raised their hand. So I raised my hand. Long story short, at the end of that auction.
How much did you start at when you raised your hand?
So that one started that was a piece of land that started for $500. That was in a town called Mulberry. Shouldn't be giving out all my secrets. I don't want nobody going to my town, but it's a town called Mulberry located.
You give your email and your phone number out. You about to give her all that?
Yeah. I know, right? I know. So fast forward to the end of the auction, I actually left that auction with 2 pieces of property. I left that auction with 2 acres and actually a property which was downtown Pittsburgh, Kansas. 309 West 7th Street. I'll never forget it. It was the first property I ever had. So I go up to the front and they write you a deed. Now here's the thing. You have 2 things when it comes to buying taxes. I didn't know this then. You have a tax deed state and you have a tax lien state. The state that I was in happened to be a tax deed, meaning that as soon as you pay for those taxes, they give you the deed to the actual property. So they wrote me the deed and I take a drive. I had my Mustang at that time, so thought I was the man. Driving around my little red Mustang and I go to this property downtown Pittsburgh and I look at it and it's an actual 2-family. It was a 1-family, but 2 stories. And I just thought about it. I was like, wow. I'm like, from Bed-Stuy, I have a piece of property that's actually mine. This is crazy.
Fire.
So I get the locks changed and I go in the house. The house is beat up. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but nonetheless, it was mine. It's my house. Yeah. So long story short, what I ended up doing that a couple more times. And the diversity officer for our college got wind of what I was doing. There was a guy on the football team. He's paying and housing people. So what he did, he offered me because they needed to recruit. Our school was, I'm going to say, love my school, love Pitt State, but it didn't have that much diversity. We had a diversity issue.
Sure.
So he was in charge of getting folks from Chicago and inner cities and St. Louis.
Recruitment, diverse.
Recruiting them. And my properties was perfect because they were close to campus, but right off campus. And what they would do, they would pay, so the school, whatever scholarship program they had, they would pay the kids rent for the whole semester, which is perfect for me.
Right.
So I did that.
Guaranteed money. Guaranteed money. Right.
Guaranteed money. So that's how I got started.
That was a good hustle for college.
Good hustle for college. Now, don't get me wrong.
Everybody got a hustle for college. That was a good one.
I know, but the thing is, listen, I still was a kid from Brooklyn, so I blew a lot of it on getting my hair braided in Jordans and Air Maxes. But hey, I was there.
Right.
So,
that's all right.
Yeah. So that's how I got started.
That's awesome. First of all, that's awesome. And so, when you say you're over Northeast, is it? Like if I go to a certain, what mall right now in New York, if I go to you the manager of, I could be like, I know the manager here. He's Mr. Anthony. Like, which one is that?
So if you go to, so now most of our centers, obviously, inside the boroughs, we don't have any, but we have in Brooklyn, specifically speaking, we have Lowe's. That's the closest one in Georgetown. So right behind Kings Plaza Mall, another company owns that, but right behind Kings Plaza Mall, you have Lowe's, you have a Home Depot. So those are some of our centers. And along that same strip, you have Ralph Avenue, it has a Party City, it has a Walgreens. So those are some centers that we currently manage right now. If you go out to Staten Island, we have some really large centers out there. Staten Island, we have Highland Boulevard, which is the premier shopping center, I'm going to say, in Staten Island. And yes, it is better than the Staten Island Mall. So,
and you're the manager of this?
Yes. I manage that one. I also manage, we have Forest Avenue, which is Forest Avenue Shopping Center, Richmond Shopping Avenue Center, which is directly behind Staten Island Mall. Beautiful mall. We have a Target. It's where we have a Target at, which is great. So those are some of the centers that we manage right now.
So just a little bit about the job. So certainly when people think about, I'm in residential real estate. So, a lot of this stuff is dealing with I guess our customers, our clients are residents, and we are catering to their needs. So in commercial, like, how does that work? Are you seeking, are you recruiting, I guess, occupants, and are you responsible for making sure that they are good? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's interesting that I tell, just like in real estate in general, right? There's a diversity issue. I always try to encourage Black and brown folks to pursue a career in not just real estate, but also in commercial real estate as well. So what we do from day to day, I'll say this: the property manager, you treat that site like it's yours personally. You manage everything from tenants moving in to leasing to if there's a leak in the foyer somewhere, you manage everything. I would say the day to day is 50% on the road and 50% in the office as well. So there's a certain aspect of, you have to meet and greet your tenants. You have to physically be there. You have to check on your tenants. They have to know that you're a real live person and not somebody that they're just talking to over the phone or via email. And then there's the admin portion of what we do as well. Invoicing, got to pay bills, things of that nature. So I would say that's the responsibility. The property manager does everything, and you'll have different departments from when a tenant moves
you have
in.
a staff.
You have a staff and build outs, but the property manager touches every aspect, contingent on how big the firm is, how big or small. Some may have a separate leasing department. I've been at commercial firms that we were the leasing agents as well. We got it leased up. Some firms will have a construction department. They'll be in charge of doing the build out. Once the tenant moves in, white boxing it and making sure that you're handing over a good product for a tenant to move in. So, but yeah, it gets very detailed.
So how important is it as a commercial property manager that you work with local businesses that can probably benefit or from your presence and in their communities? So I don't know how many businesses maybe from Staten Island, or how many suppliers may come from Staten Island, or how many of your construction team members. How important is that for you or for KINCO?
It's a good question. For me personally, it's super important, right? And it's interesting that you asked that, because when I go to places, people never ask me anything. They never ask me. People just don't ask me, right? And I think I'm a fairly good resource, so I'm not sure if people don't understand or don't know, but they never ask me, anything. Again, not sure if it's just hey, I really don't know, so I'm not going to ask. But one thing I will say is this: while a lot of shopping centers, they'll definitely have an anchor tenant, right? So most of the centers that we have an anchor tenant, like a Target or a supermarket, which is super important. That supermarket, and I think throughout the pandemic, supermarkets proved to still be very, very profitable, because no matter what, people still needed food, right? You put on that mask, whether you put on 2 or 3, 4, 5 masks, like my wife, put on the whole hazmat suit and going out, into the mall to get your food, right? But no matter what, you still need to get food, and that is what drives foot traffic. So once you have the center that has foot traffic, then you can have your smaller mom and pops. And I think it's important for the mom and pop shops to understand that is all the time you may not want to be in a center that had other mom and pop shops. You want to try to position yourself in a center, or even locally, that has a Target nearby, that has a grocery anchor, because that's where that foot traffic is going to come from. So yeah, it's important for centers, community-based centers, to have that mix of tenants, because that's what you want. For the landlord, you don't want all big box tenants either. What's happening to Best Buy, right? They found Chapter 11. So you don't want a center with all big box, because if one fails, it's like a domino effect. So as a landlord, you definitely want to have a good mix of, you have your smaller mom and pops, so you can keep a beat on what's happening locally, but then you do also want that national big box, that Target, that Costco, that Best Buy, that Home Depot, that Lowe's. You definitely want those tenants too, because they're the ones that's going to drive foot traffic.
So what's the line of success here for you? So you got in, you're now Northeast, which is incredible. I mean, I'm what's the states that cover that? Because I was going to ask you about some other ones along I guess when I'm driving along 95 to Rhode Island, there's been quite a few different malls along there.
Yes.
Is
We
that,
have a lot.
that
Yeah,
you?
we have a lot.
Is that you as
We
well?
No. So my specific jurisdiction is I have Long Island, Brooklyn, Staten Island, I have Indianapolis, and I have Chicago.
Oh, you're in
And
Chicago.
yeah, and Jersey, and Jersey as
Oh,
well.
and
So
Jersey, all New Jersey.
not I have the northern part of Jersey. So Edgewater. If you go to Edgewater Commons, which is
Yeah,
a beautiful, love that place.
yeah,
Edgewater, it sits right on the Henry Hudson.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's the KIMCO site. I've managed that for 2
That's
years
awesome.
now.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's where my reach.
it's a beautiful one. Yeah, it's
It's
beautiful.
amazing.
Yeah,
Edgewater is beautiful. Edgewater is amazing, and it's
yeah.
funny because before I managed that site, I didn't even know Edgewater or Clifton, New Jersey, even existed.
Mm,
So it's a beautiful part of town that I just became familiar with because I had to manage these assets
mm.
for it as well. So it's right off the Henry Hudson, beautiful town, beautiful place. It's amazing. And even there at Edgewater, I had to go to a community board meeting because we were getting a deal. We were having needed to get a variance
Sure.
for a carve out that we were doing. And I'm used to community boards. I've been on the Bed-Stuy community board for you know 12 years. I think I came off the board maybe last year, so I understand
Which
what
one?
community board is all
CB3.
about. Of course, CB, of
So
course.
you know Henry Butler.
If I know Henry Butler, that's my man. He just stepped down.
He works for me now.
What? You know what? I actually, because I called him. I said, Henry, so what are you going? So you know what? We're gonna have to talk about that.
I'm sorry for putting Henry's business out here, everybody, but we have so much of a small world.
It's a small world. Yeah, that's my guy.
I know.
I've known Henry. When I say I've known Henry for double-digit years, I've known Henry for so long, and it ain't even fun. That's my man. That's good people. I've seen his kids grow up.
Yeah.
Miles, the kids there, going off to college now. So it's crazy because I remember them when they were.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember when they
Small
were
world.
little.
Always small world.
Small world.
So when you had to go, you were saying, I'm sorry, you were going to the community board for variance in Edgewater and what?
Yes. So and just that, that's when I realized Edgewater is pretty cool because it's a beautiful town for one.
Mm-hmm.
It's right next to Manhattan, but it still has that small town feel, which is pretty cool. So those are some of the assets that we manage out there in Chicago. I have four sites out there in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So it does require me to travel maybe once every 6 weeks, once every 8 weeks.
Sure.
So it's good to sometimes get on a plane and stretch out. And I have a 3-year-old running around waking you up all the time. So it's kind of nice. The wife is like,
you've mentioned this 3-year-old like 5 times. So
listen,
tell me about this 3-year-old and how he has changed your life.
listen, nothing changes your life, especially, I can only speak from a male perspective. So as a dad, nothing changes your life like having, a kid, right? Like having a little one. And it's interesting because my mother-in-law, she always makes fun. Mind you, I grew up playing football, outside linebacker. I made a little living off of knocking running backs down, sacks,
Sure.
tackles for losses,
Sure.
all of that stuff, right? Made it still run around getting it, right? Bench press, weight room, the whole works.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in that delivery room watching that kid come out, I have never cried that much in my whole entire life, ever.
Wow.
Ever.
Wow.
I couldn't stop crying. So, but having kids, really changes your life.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle.
It really is.
It's a miracle.
It really is. And I know for me,
Your wife should be commended for that. That's an incredible feat.
I tell her I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But it is special. It is special. And I think kids, what they do, it to me, in my opinion, it changes your perspective, right, on life. Because before, I thought I had a pretty decent perspective, but when kids come in, now you start to think even further ahead in life, right? You want to leave a legacy. You hear people talk about that a lot, but I think it wisens you up. You make your decisions become a little better in regards to how you spend your time strategically and how you make your money. That becomes important as well, but not in the sense, hey, I want this money, so I can go buy this fast car. Right? Sometimes you're like, listen, I want to make this money so I can spend more time with my family and do things that I want to do. So I think as a, for me, it definitely changed me a lot. That's one thing I will say. And I didn't even expect it. I was like, why am I feeling different? What's going on in here? I'm feeling different, seeing different, right? But it definitely changed.
It's called unconditional love.
You're right. And it's funny because now my wife calls me a softie.
She calls you a softie.
Yeah,
well, it's good. It's a good softie. I mean, that's real. No, that's a wonderful thing. And congratulations again.
Thank you.
So Crusaders, I've experienced my life. My son went to school that had the Crusaders called Stepinac High School. So
yep, I know it well.
We're calling Crusaders. So you decided after all of that, after going to high school and going to college and playing in the XFL and the CFL, that you still wanted to continue. You started
crazy, right? Crazy, right?
So I think, well, I know it's not crazy. I think people should have something to do with their time, and I think men should definitely have something to do with their energy. And so, because men need that bonding time. That's real.
Of course.
But this is incredible. So tell us a little bit about it.
Perfect. So I came back. I think it was when it was a league in Florida, the UNGL. So I made the team. This was obviously after high school before I came back to New York. In Florida, I made the team. Super excited, ready to go. And the league collapsed. I'm like, man. And then I came back up here. I was like, all right, cool. And I spent some time with the Hartford Colonials of the USFL, right? Everybody remembers them. They were around for 3 years. And then they collapsed too. So I'm like, man, what's going on? So I come back to New York. I was like, all right, well, let me just reevaluate things and see what's happening. So I played with a couple of teams around, and I was like, yeah, I really didn't, really wasn't filling the void for me. So I decided to come up and create the New York Crusaders. And what I decided to do is mimic the Crusaders after the college experience that I had. My college experience was great. I wanted to create something that has that. So that's why games, we have the marching band, we have a dance team, something that you don't see at all on this level, right? So for me, it was important to have that, to give guys, I have the band at our last game we had at New York High School. We had the band line up, and my guys started out in the tunnel. They kind of running through the tunnel with the band playing. So some of these guys may never get to experience that in their lives, but at least this would be a touch of what they can, of what I know, what I experienced from my college, experience, which was amazing. So that's the whole idea came out of, and it's kind of ballooned from there.
So where do you guys practice?
So we practice at a couple locations. We have a park, St. John's Park, and we also practice at this brand. And here's where here's where the real estate and football come into play. So there's a developer, I'm pretty sure you know them from GHI, can't remember the exact name, but a pretty popular developer. Throughout the city, just so everyone knows, just to gain some clarity, the city of New York, all the boroughs, they have what's called armories. Armories are what was used back in the day, during war times, where bunkers and soldiers could rest and hang out and chill out. So now that these bunkers, we're not in wartime, we're not in World War II anymore. What do you do with these bunkers? Some of them are men's shelters, like the one on Atlantic in Bedford, and others serve as. So the one in Crown Heights was redeveloped into a sports facility, along with residential housing. So that's one of our practice fields. Is a brand new indoor facility turf that was repositioned into a community space that has dance class, it has basketball courts, has an Olympic-sized swimming pool in there as well. So that's the indoor facility that we use for practice, and it's been great. So those are the two locations that we practice. We play our games at mostly Brooklyn Field. So we have Franklin K. Lane High School, New Utrecht High School, South Shore High School, Boys and Girls High School. Those are some places that we play our games in as well.
Big shout out to Clive Harding.
That is my man. That is my. See, look, we know too many of the same people. I'm just letting you know that. We
work together too. Real estate and football go together. Well, first of all, so many of us, we spend a lot of time working with young people, trying to get them engaged and, making sure we share resources with them. And so, sports is always something that doesn't disappoint, And so I the story with Clyde is that his he coached two guys that wound up being the offensive lineman coach for my son. And so
Wow.
when I met him, he was like, oh yeah, I said, what ring is that? And he was like, oh, this is a ring from Sheep's Head Bay. And I was like, oh, do you know these two guys? So and so and so and so. He was like, yeah, I coached them. I was like, wow, those are my son coaches. He was like, get out of here. This was literally about 11 years ago, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I've known him that long. And that commitment to even hear that you're utilizing these fields outside of just what they use them is great, you know. So they're utilizing this space for other people that want to do that. So do you have like championships, and do you play other, like, who do you play?
It's a whole
group out here.
It is a whole world. There are a ton of teams running around. So the New York tri-state area, we have teams in Long Island, we have some teams in Brooklyn, the Bronx. You got the Harlem Gators up there near you. You got
we got something like that here in Harlem.
You got the Harlem Gators. The Harlem Gators is right.
So ladies, so I'm talking to the ladies. Ladies, if you want to like see some men play, gotta go to these games, ladies. Figure it out.
Yeah, you got the Harlem Gators. You got another program called the New York Patriots. They're based up in like the Bronx, Yonkers area. Good group of guys as well.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a couple of leagues floating around. You have the TFL, it's your Tri-Borough Football League. You have the LAL, which is the League of All Leagues. And you have the DEN. So those are the new leagues. You have the ECFL as well, and you have the Elite Football Alliance league as well. So there are a couple different leagues floating around. For us, being honest, we're looking at going independent. So we also, and here's another thing that you don't know about Coach Clive. He also coaches with NYPD.
I do know that. Know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
I do know that.
So,
and I missed that game. I wanted to go to that game too.
Yeah. So we also play NYPD as well.
That's right. That's right. That must be interesting.
They normally beat up on us. But
I can imagine.
but we show up.
Let me ask you this. You know, speaking of beating up, you know, certainly everybody knows this is a violent sport. What are you linking to with your health? Do you have a doctor that works with you guys? Do you have someone around to assist with injuries?
Yes, we do actually just recently. And that's the tough part, right? Because most of the time, you know, it's tough. It's tough to have that medical personnel around. And I think, you know, for me, the risk of we've always had incidents, but the incident that most kind of affected me didn't happen on this level is what DeMar Hamlin, right? And I think the world watched him, you know, playoff game as he fell out and was unresponsive for so long. And Thank goodness that he had the Buffalo Bills staff, which is probably some of the most highest paid folks in that field, to actually be there.
Right.
Now, if you go down to our level, it's a whole different category. And I emphasize to these to these men. And let's be honest, right? Some of these men, they're not dieting right. These are guys that, you know, maybe, hey, listen, I'm just gonna, you know, this is the thing that I like to do on the weekend. I might practice once a week. And this is what I love to do. So for us, we do take health extremely important because it's important. We don't want anybody to fall out. So we try to have, you know, at all our games, EMS. We use we use folks, Flatbush Volunteer Ambulance Service. We've used them. The Bed-Stuy Ambulance Volunteer Corps. That they're
okay.
Yeah, so we try to partner with some of these folks.
Excellent.
To provide on-site medical.
Sure.
Because in case something happens, you know, we at least want to have that responsiveness there.
I'm sure that relieves a lot of issues for folks, you know. And I'm sure you work with the referee groups that are out there too, that comes in and referees.
Yeah, there's, you know, again, the rabbit hole goes deep on that as well, because there's a whole referee.
There really is,
man. Yeah. It really is, but a lot of these refs, you see them a lot because there's only a handful of referees, and they do from little league to minor league to semi-pro to high school. You know, it's the same group of referees that you go to high schools and you'll see them, you know, kind of coaching the high school games and refereeing the high school games as well. So I've gotten familiar with a lot of the refs throughout these years, the ones that coach our games. But again, they're a good group of guys that try to ensure that folks like us, that's 18 and over, these grown men running around, can still play the game that they love.
Well, I know that, certainly working with all these collaborators, working with all these partners to ensure um, a successful outcome, you're also dealing with other stuff. You said you were doing an event this weekend, a combine.
Yeah,
Uh, so tell us a little bit about that.
perfect. So July is going to be a busy month actually for me. I have a combine coming up this weekend, and then the 27th, I'm on the host committee for the Diversity and Commercial Real Estate Conference,
Wow.
which you should be at. You
should send me that.
I'll send you the info. So yeah, so this week coming up, Saturday at Poly Prep High School, we have our combine coming up. And what this combine is, it's a traditional combine, right? The same thing, and you're familiar with the drills. I mean, you run the 40-yard dash, you do the bench press, you do the L drill, you do all
who's
those.
it for? Is it for your age group?
Good question. No. So at this combine, and we will have combine specifically for, the guys in their 30s and up. But for us, let's just chill out for a second, right? Let's chill out for the 30-year-olds, right? So this is for the high school kids that are juniors, seniors, and 1 to 2 years removed for high school. This is giving these guys the opportunity that haven't been looked at, who's not on anybody's radar, to give them another opportunity to be seen. I know the Coach Weaver, if he's listening, hoping that you could come down, Coach Weaver, from Army. So Coach Weaver's up at Army at West Point. And we actually played them. We actually played the JV squad of West Point last year. They put a beating on us. Lord.
So who do y'all beat? Who do you beat? Who did y'all beat? Who have y'all beaten?
But here's the thing, right?
I really believe I love the cavalierness, but who do y'all beat?
Well, here's the thing: it has to be evenly yoked. Listen, Army, not only one obviously is a military school, they practice every day. So for us, and we know what the challenge is. We play, and we also play college programs. So we played Thaddeus Stevens, we played Lackawanna, we played Williamson Trade.
You played JUCOs?
Yes, we played Monroe. We were up in Monroe. We almost beat Monroe, actually. We almost beat them. We almost beat Monroe. But we like that challenge because, again, like I said, I love it. I try to mimic this. I try to mimic this program and give it a college football feel, a college football experience, and playing those teams. But going up there to West Point was an amazing experience. We went to the campus. I mean, driving through there was just amazing. And you know what? We were pumped. We came on the field with them. We seen these guys. We were like, yeah, man, we want to see these guys. And then 5 minutes into the game, we realized it ain't gonna happen.
I knew a couple of young men on that team too. The JV team.
Super disciplined. Super.
Let me ask you this: so, like, I love that you guys are doing it. Is this like, how do you get on the team? Can anybody be on it, or is there like a tryout situation, or what?
Yeah, for us, we try to keep a non-hard barrier of entry because we know. And again, we know a lot of our guys may not have finished high school. Some of our guys come to us, hey, I'm 22 and I don't have my GED. Ty, can you help me out? Hey, Ty, I might have been justice involved. I did 2 years. Actually, a couple years ago, we got a grant. The New York Crusaders got a grant from Neon. Neon is basically, you have Neon Arts, which was big, but they created a division called Neon Sports, where individuals that were justice involved, maybe they got in, maybe they were running with the bad crew, and an alternative for their probation was for them to come with us. So we got a grant for them right out of Boys and Girls High School, and we were running a program for Neon, and we had a Neon Arts, Neon Sports athletes, and it was great. We had a lot of these, young men, older, younger, in between, that were justice involved in some way, but they came down and they were part of the program. So it was great. But yeah, we get anybody, and the qualification is you have to be dedicated. You have to come down. You have to commit yourself to practice. Obviously, we have paperwork to fill out as well. But once you do that, and we have services. So if you need a GED, we try to refer to that. If you need a job, we try to refer you to a job program. If you want to go back to school, go back to college, whatever it is, we try to provide that.
Is there a fee to become a part of this?
So we had a fee of last year. Our fee was $50. $50 to be a New York Crusader. That was our fee.
That's not, and that comes with the uniform and everything.
Comes with the uniform and everything. Travel to games. These guys, they love their social media, come with all your pictures and video, so you can send it to your lady and say, "Hey, look at me running around, babe." So it comes with all that.
Wow, that's fire. So let me ask you this: if there's I know you talked about the event coming up in July. Are you hosting that? Are you participating in that commercial real estate conference?
Yes. So the conference is in its 5th year. I believe it's in its 5th year. And the cool thing about it is what I call the gathering of all the best Black and brown real estate developers in the country. One place we gather at Columbia University, right in the city. That's close, not too far from you. Right at Columbia, and it's going to be a 3-day event, which is going to be great. So we have some good speakers. I think Don Peebles is slated to be there as well. So this will draw all the major developers in New York
Yeah,
City.
send that over. We'll share that with our team.
Yeah, actually, the panel I'm on, you may be interested. So I am moderating the access to affordable housing panel.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yes. So I'm going to be moderating that panel as well. So I'm actually looking forward to that also.
Right. I will say that if you could talk a little bit about how, if you think real estate has changed. From my perspective, I've always been more into community development. Right. We talked about this, where the focus, the center is the resident. Right, is the person that lives there. There's now some changes, I guess, because of the industry. It's all about the money, right? It's all about the numbers. Do you find that the resident gets lost in any of this these days, or what?
Yeah, it's it's an interesting dynamic. And here's what it is. I'm just going to be real. At the end of the day, numbers do matter, right? And here's the thing. So as of the last couple of years, I've been getting really involved in economics and how money flows and how money works. Um, Obviously, we all know how deals get financed. You go for a mortgage for your house, you go to a bank. Um, and those banks have billions and trillions of dollars. So at the end of the day, we have to always, keep that in mind. I mean, here's what I mean by that. So as a resident, you have affordable housing, and to develop that, so you have, X amount of houses and X amount of units and X amount of people to fill that. So we come with the issue which is why places like Chicago, LA, New York, Miami's, all of them will run into affordable housing issues. Now, when I was in West Virginia, hey, when I was in Kansas, yeah, it was housing for everybody. What house did you go, right? But we live in a city of 8 million people, maybe even more. So obviously we don't have 8 million units for every single person. And that's where the issue comes into play. I do believe that in the last couple of years, and it's a balance, because it's a balance of free market, right? And then it's a balance of rules and regulations. And I truly believe that we do need both. You don't want to overregulate. You don't want to overregulate the industry, because then that will stifle growth. And then you can't have a place that runs rapid, because then landlords, and we know that people will take advantage, overcharge rent, kick people out whenever they want to, that sort of stuff. In New York City, I think it's in a situation where it's above and beyond. I'm going to say, not in terms of, hey, we're better than, but our problem is specifically unique to New York because of the way we are. Our problem is different than Miami. Our problem is different than LA. Our problem is even different than Chicago because of the way we're set up, the amount of people that we have here, the demographics, and just the way the boroughs are laid out and housing is laid out. So there's no book that we can flip to say, hey, here's how we solve this affordable housing problem. And in that, the resident that's making 50, 60, 70, $70,000 a year, who may not be able to afford a home to buy, and they may not qualify, they don't make nothing, so they can't get all the benefits. So it's tough for that person. Like, where do they go and what do they do? So I think for us moving forward, it is understanding the dynamic and us creating ways and paths to, see how we can make this thing work.
Well, here's a tidbit, and I won't charge you for this when you moderate your workshop.
Gotcha.
But just really asking, how do how do we gain access without politicizing access to like things like, volume cap or tax credits and stuff like
Yes.
that, that will allow developers to create or have access to more equity to build affordable housing. It's becoming a political thing, right? And it's like, you got to get online if you want to build stuff 5-6 years from now. Today, you have to get on the line for that. And so, like, being able to find solutions on how people can really gain access to build affordable housing without being political is something that, we got to look at too.
Well, I don't think that's going to change. You look at Eastern, and I'm Brooklyn guy, so I look at East New York, for example, rezoning is huge, right? So, all throughout East New York, you rezone that whole area, which is great. And I was, in Brownsville, I was in East New York the other day, and there's starting to be some more development happening. I think that's good, right? That's good that you're building, some, it's great. But then the issue comes down, I always say this, hey, when you say affordable housing, what do you like? What do you mean, right? Because if you're looking at the AMIs, and this is something that we also did with the community board. You look at like what AMI are you looking at, right? Because if you go to a community that like Bed-Stuy, that's really changed, and now people there making 175, 200 plus a year. You're going to the AMI, that it's a little off. So I think that, like you said, I think we have to take a holistic, ideal approach to how do we provide good quality housing for the people that live in New York City.
Yeah. Well, you got two tracks here, TYWAN. So you got to say, like, if somebody's interested in, first of all, getting involved with the New York, I don't know if you need volunteers. I don't know if you need money. If someone wants to get in touch with you guys or get involved, how do they do that? For the New York Crusaders.
Yeah, so we have a great website, nycrusaders.org, .org. Go there, take a peek, see what we've done in the past, look at our videos, see the impact that we've made, in the lives of these young men. We've even driven young men down. I rented a minivan out my own pocket, and we drove 3 young men down to Livingstone College, which was the first. Livingstone was the college they played the first HBCU game ever.
Yeah, sure.
Right, so we drove them down. It was 12 hours. And I drove down there and drove back, but it was an amazing experience. I had a buddy that I went to school with in West Virginia. He was the coach down there at that time, and he invited us down. So we had a really great time in exposing some of these young men to what that looks like. So www.nycrusaders.org. That's our website.
Okay. All right. And first of all, thank you so much for your service with that. And then your business area, if someone was interested in going into commercial real estate, or they're interested in that field, what would your advice be?
Here's what I'll say.
What are the steps to take?
Good. I'm a big believer in networking and being involved. And I know for me, sometimes just being in the circles, like with NYRAC, which is the New York Real Estate Chamber. I've been involved with them for like 10 years plus. I remember being a little guy, not knowing much about real estate, but just tagging along because I had an interest. And one thing I will say is this, expanding the mind, meaning that most of the time when I tell people I'm in real estate, the only thing I hear is, "Oh, I'm looking for an apartment," right? I'm like, I don't know nothing about no apartments. So the only thing that people really know about real estate is, are you going to sell a house? Or are you going to rent me an apartment? That's it. They don't know that.
I get that all
the time, right? They don't know that you can be a property manager, you can be an asset manager, you can be in risk management, you can be in community development, really working for a real estate firm. So people don't understand that. But I would say this: the best advice that I would tell anybody that's looking to get into real estate is go get a job, a 9-to-5 where you can get a paycheck and learn with a real estate company. And I'm going to be honest, right? Because I have my real estate license, and you want to sell apartments, cool. That's what you want to do, no doubt. It is great. But my advice is, why not get paid to learn on the job, right? If you can have somebody else give you a paycheck and you're learning everything and learning all the
I agree.
I
agree with that.
Why not, right? Why not? So I would tell people, if you can break into the field in that way and get a job as a property manager, get a job as an asset manager, and then learn from there, right? Because the best education that you're going to learn is that, and you're getting the paychecks. You can't beat that, you know. And I have this conversation with a lot of folks, you know, a lot of folks that I know are real estate agents, and they struggle, and they always say, "Man, I can't have no desk job." I'm like, listen, you're a property manager, you know, it's not a desk job. You're out.
You're all
you're
over.
working,
You're all
you're
over.
working in the field. You're working in the field. So I wish, you know, a lot of folks that look like you and I wish they would understand that, because, you know, at these companies, there's not a lot of black and brown people at all, right? You know, so I wish that they would just understand that. So my advice would be, you know, try to get a job, tailor your resume. You know, I see a lot of resumes, and sometimes I cringe, you know, when I look at somebody's resume. I'm like, oh Lord, man, this person needs help. So look at your resume, get a realistic idea of where you want to go, what you want to do. If you want to be in real estate, go work for a company go work for a real estate firm. Go get that 2-week paycheck so you can, you know, stabilize your finances. And I think for us, it's just that. When you're a real estate agent, you're always looking for that next deal. You may not rent an apartment for 2-3 months. In that time, you haven't had a paycheck, right? So, you know, I think that's super important. There
Got it.
are programs like REAP. Go learn, right? REAP is like a 2-3 month program that teaches you the ins and outs of do that and get that on your resume so you look a little bit more appealing when you apply for some of these jobs.
Well, TYWAN, you are awesome, and you don't disappoint. And thank you for coming on Phoenix Soul. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I loved it. It's definitely.
Someone said, by the way, looking for a Manhattan brownstone for $25,000. Can you help? She's laughing.
Of course, that $25,000 will get you maybe about 2 square feet in a bathroom somewhere, and there you go. But no, it's interesting. So, you know, lastly, not to take up, but
no, good.
Like even in Bed-Stuy, right? So born and raised there. There's a time, just like Harlem, nobody want to live in Bed-Stuy. Nobody want to live in Bed-Stuy. Nobody grew up there. Nobody want to live in Bed-Stuy. Now is one of the hottest markets around, and you know, my family, you know,
people migrate. Yeah, the migration is real. Yeah,
and we still have a couple brownstones there, which, you know, my grandmother talking with her the other day. She said, "Yeah, I bought this brownstone for $45,000 back in." I was like, "Dang, why you bought it for $45,000?" She said that was a stretch, and I had to do everything myself.
Back then, yeah.
But back then, you know, so real estate, I think, will always be and continue to be. Even me, I just recently bought a house 3 years ago in another part of Brooklyn, and the price is up. I'm like, man, right? So real estate will always and continue to be, you know, a really good investment. It's a tangible, it's a tangible asset that you can touch, feel, smell, live in, kick around, and do whatever you need to do. So
people always gonna need a place to live and eat.
Always gonna need a place to live.
Well, again, TYWAN, thank you so much. I think you were incredible. Is there anything else you want to say before we close out?
No, you know, again, thank you, and thank you for the studio, you know, for having us and putting everything together. Definitely seamless and definitely smooth. But yeah, you know, everyone just you know, keep learning and keep growing. Super important to always do that, and you know, kind of go after what you want to do. And there's one saying that I always go by, you know, simple but true: freedom ain't free. So if you want, you know, in terms, and you can take that saying in many different ways. If you want to live the life you want to live, it ain't free. You gotta fight for it day in, day out. Right? You gotta fight against odds that are tough, and then you gotta be mentally tough. So freedom ain't free.
Well, we heard that. Freedom ain't free. Thank you so much. TYWAN, Anthony, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on Phoenix Soul. Commercial property manager for KINCO Realty, as well as founder New York Crusaders football organization. Thanks again, and good luck to you. And we got you. Anything we need to do to continue to support your efforts, send us that flyer, and we'll share that on our socials.
Perfect. So I'll send you two: Combine and the conference. You should be there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. So everybody, thank you so much. This has been incredible. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope we continue to keep bringing information and people that are doing positive things in their life, hopefully making a difference for themselves and you. You're listening to Phoenix Soul podcast, Clarity and Connection through conversation. And I am Yaz HURSTON. We'll see you again. Talk soon.